When the scriptures talk about Jesus, there are a lot of different themes that theologians like to talk about. And they like to identify the ways that the writers of the Gospels see Jesus as a priest fulfilling the sacrificial code of the Old Testament. They like to focus on how the writers of the Gospels frame Jesus as a king, fulfilling all of the messianic prophecies of a just ruler in the Old Testament. They like to focus on Jesus as a prophet, fulfilling the role of the many people who spoke on behalf of God throughout the Old Testament. And those three things are really important. You don't see how Christ is the fulfillment of the entirety of the Old Testament if you miss one of those key characteristics. But the Gospels also show us another dimension of Jesus, which we have to make sure that we don't ever forget, which is that Jesus comes and when he talks to his disciples, he calls them friends. Jesus is not only the King of the universe. He is not only the priest who sits at the right hand of God, offering eternally himself as a sacrifice. He is not only the very Word of God made flesh, but he is also relationally present to us as our friend. In these times, I've really relied on this particular aspect of who Jesus is more than ever. Recognizing that in the incarnation we see a God who did not view all the grand titles of who he is and what he has as important, but actually, as Philippians 2 says, he emptied himself, joining us in the midst of our sorrow, our brokenness, our despair. And that's because at the root of everything that God is love. That's what 1 John 4:8 tells us. And I think it's that fundamental element of who God is that should interpret everything that we do. So one of the things that has made probably the biggest difference in my life with God has been taking time to connect with God as my friend. The way that I do this is by starting each day in prayer. My method is fairly simple. I take notes to God. I go through my past day every morning and I thank him for the amazing things that happened. And I thank him for the things that I have in my life. And I thank him for all of the opportunities that are coming. And I ask him to have mercy on me, that he might forgive all the ways that I failed to live up to his call in my life. And also, all the things that are coming that I want him to be a part of. So for me, just taking some time, and this is an ancient practice of the church called an examen, where we approach God with gratitude and offer him our past and our future, asking him to show us where his Spirit has been at work and where we need a little bit more of his Spirit to work with us. So in the midst of all of this, learning about who God is wonderful. You know, I'm working on finishing my PhD in theology. I've studied theology for more than 13 years. And all of that is really wonderful, but it means nothing if we don't have a relationship with God. If we don't have a time in our life where we can turn to him and reflect and find that he's near us in all things and he loves us. We have a God who joins us in our most difficult times. And I invite you to open your eyes. to find the ways that he's present to you today.